And we are live. Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of What Makes This Set Great with Jake and RJ. With tonight's guest, Orlando, a collector's dream. Tonight, we're talking about 1952 Bowman. And welcome again to the first Monday night without football in a long time. So we're happy people can jump onto this live stream tonight and join us.
Speaking about football, who do you guys think is going to win the Super Bowl?
Who's going to win the Super Bowl? I don't know. That's a great question.
I got Lions.
Lions. Wow.
I got
Lions. Yeah.
I got to go with the Chiefs.
Chiefs. Yeah, I like the Chiefs too.
In Kansas City.
I just like Mahomes.
I picked a Hutchinson auto up this weekend, so I want the Lions to win.
My buddy Dre Diaz has joined us in the chat. Of course, he says the Chiefs. That is his team. I don't know why, because he was from Chicago originally, but he's given up on the Bears. So.
I texted Dre and told him to be in the chat and say Chiefs.
What's up, John?
He's also ready to tease me about something else. Hey, good evening, John. How are you? So,
first episode of 2024.
Yeah, it is. And we're going to cover a topic that's 72 years old. So we're staying real timely on topics today. All right. Well, 1952 Bowman. Maybe we want to do introductions first. And, I feel like everybody in the world knows Orlando, though. It's great to have you on the channel, but I feel like I've seen you on every live stream and you seemed like the most approachable man in the world. And I'm just so thrilled to have you on here tonight. But we do allow people to provide themselves an introduction when we do these shows. So, Orlando, would you like to introduce yourself? And what's your earliest memory of the 1952 Bowman set?
Thank you, Mitchell. Thanks, Jake and RJ, for having me on. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody. I'm just trying to be the best I could be for the community, and just kind of, my wife tells me I'd never say no to any of these interviews, but I don't. Maybe I'll be like Donnie Livestream one day, following his footsteps. Anyway, the 52 Bowman for me, got to be honest with you, it wasn't one of those sets that really attracted me that much, because it was really in the heels of the 52 Tops. And, for me, when I was collecting, the 52 Tops was always the big set. And that's the one that everybody wanted, and that's the one I really went after. But really, when you take a look at the 52 Bowmans, even though they're a lot smaller than the Tops, the artwork on those cards are just beautiful. They're really, really put you back in the days of the 50s. The backgrounds that they have there, the uniforms and the gloves and things like that, really put you back into the days of the 1950s. And really, I think it's a little bit more colorful and a little bit better artwork. There's a lot of things that I don't like. I think, Bowman unfortunately stayed with the small format instead of putting out the bigger format. But, they came back the next year with the 53 Bowmans, and they blew away the 50 Tops with the full color pictures. So the 52 Bowman is kind of, in the middle there, not one of those sets that people really, really look at, but they definitely they are beautiful cards. And, it's just one of those years as far as, for me, when I look back in the history of that year as a Yankee fan, the Yankees were in the middle of winning, attempting to win, 4 straight championships there, and it was the big transition time between DiMaggio, who had just retired, and then Mantle taking over. And, that World Series before the 51 World Series was the World Series where Mantle got hurt and messed up his knee. And, back in the day, you didn't know, how was he going to recover from that in the 52 season? And, what that 52 season was really where Mantle just came out, took over the team, took them through the season, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But at the end, they went into the World Series. Mantle hit his first World Series home run out of the 18 that he had hit, and it was a big time for the Yankees and for Mickey Mantle. And again, they beat the Dodgers 4-3. But that was, I think, where Mantle really took off. And you got to remember that the 52 Topps Mantle didn't come out until the end. So while they were playing the World Series and things like that, and being in the race, the only Mantle cards around was that 52 Bowman Mantle. So that would have been, at that time, I'd imagine, a real popular card for the kids. Want to pull that out of the pack, the new star of the Yankees. Yeah, there was the 51, which was the rookie. But, when you're pulling packs that year and the Yankees are the top team and Mantle's the top guy, I could imagine the kids back in those days were just crazy trying to pull that Mantle. It's the only Mantle they knew, because the Topps Mantle, they couldn't get it through the season. They'd had to wait most people didn't even get it.
I asked my dad if he remembers collecting Bowman cards when he was younger, because he would often talk about having baseball cards when he was younger, all of which have been thrown out by my grandmother. So God rest her soul, she threw away all the collection from the 1940s and 50s. But I asked him, like, do you remember collecting Bowman cards? And he's like, no, it was always Topps. So I kind of wondered, like, what was the distribution of like Bowman in like those years? Like, were they easier or harder to find in certain places? He said he would get, like he would really try and find Stan Musial. So it made me wonder, like, well, you had to have probably gotten Bowman cards because you stopped collecting probably by the time Musial was actually in the top sets. But he distinctly remembers going after the Topps cards. So I don't know what Musial he had. He probably had a Bowman and didn't know what it was at that point. My earliest memories of the 52 Bowman, at least in particular, was probably like the Mantle card itself, like seeing it in some hobby magazine or at a card show, and knowing that was like a pretty coveted card. And I didn't really know anything about the 1952 Bowman set. And sometimes I had a hard time deciphering what was different between 51 and 52 until I got much older. And I was like, oh, there's clear differences between the two. But I didn't, at that time, really kind of even know like the major differences of what stars were in what sets and which ones weren't. That was something I kind of learned during my early adulthood when I got back into the hobby. So Jake and RJ, you guys are trying to tackle this set. What's drawn you into the 1952 Bowman set?
Just a completion, like I said before, I love art. So the art aspect of the cards, I mean, it's something we can do. The 51 probably isn't something we can probably do right now, but the 52, the Mantle's gettable. So we figured let's go after the 52. Not a lot of rookies in this set, but still a nice. We wanted a Bowman set, so this is the one we picked.
There's one Hall of Fame rookie of note that I'm aware of in the set at this point. And I think Orlando wanted to share that card.
Yeah.
As we kind of talked in our brief little pregame. And I
for sure.
definitely understand why. So
yeah, I mean, you got to go with the Minnie Minoso rookie card. And, for me, this is probably one of the key cards to the set as a, born in Cuba and as a fellow Cuban, Minnie Minoso, really, thanks. He, to us, Minnie is the Jackie Robinson of the Latin American players. And the reason I say that is because he's the first Black Latin American player to play in the major leagues. And, you had Jackie and you had Larry Doby, but then, Minnie Minoso went through a tough time, not as much as Jackie since he was the first one. But if you compare him to somebody like a Larry Doby, they both went through a lot because Minoso really didn't speak the language as well. He came here from Cuba and he really, at one point, he didn't speak English at all. So it was real difficult for him, not just being a Black man playing in the white league, but being speaking a different language altogether. And he had to really earn his respect and had to play well, or he really wouldn't have been accepted in the league. And one of the things with Minoso is that he's probably one of the friendliest, easygoingest guys that you could ever meet. The guy will just, you know, bend over backwards for you, you know. And I know a lot of people that here in South Florida, you hear a lot of stories about Minoso and things like that. And he's just a wonderful guy and a player really that for a long time was ignored. And he was a big contributing factor, you know, to the success of the White Sox in those days. And, you know, he led the league in 1952. He led the league in steals. And they went on to almost beat the Yankees within 2 games of the Yankees. I mean, the powerful Yankees. So, you know, he went through a lot. And that's one of the things that I look at. And when I look at players, I do look at, of course, at their accomplishment, what they've done and their stats and all that. But you have to look at it, you know, their importance to the game itself. And, you know, he has that importance of you know, I'll call him a second-tier Jackie Robinson figure, but he was also an incredible player and a team player. And, you know, nobody can deny the skills that he had. And, you know, his first time at bat, he hit a home run. I mean, and that is something that, you know, just set the mark there. And he played in Cuba for many years. You know, he played back in the mid-40s in Cuba and the Negro Leaguers and all of that until he got his opportunity to play here in the majors.
He's a legend here locally, even still. Just baseball fans in general in the Shawland area, but definitely White Sox fans. And as you mentioned, he was always very approachable and lived in the area for many, many, many years. So you'd see him sometimes just around town, and he would be willing to kind of sign autographs on a moment's notice if you're asking him to do it. Just such a wonderful ambassador for the game, for sure. He's like on their walk of fame that they have in the outfield with the statue out there. He's one of the players that is featured out there. I think he was one of the first ones to get one, if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, definitely well deserved. And I think also a lot of people my age kind of remember him trying to come out of retirement and play with the White Sox in the 70s. And again, I think in the very early 80s. Didn't have as much success in the early 80s doing it, but I mean, he did in the 70s for sure. So
he's a guy that I think he's in 4 Hall of Fames, and he played in 5 different decades. I mean, nobody played in 5 decades. He's the only one, even though he just came up to bat in the 80s, but still, you know, it counts.
Yeah, you got to give credit to Bill Veeck where it's deserved, for sure.
Rich, I'd like to see
welcome
a
him
picture
back.
of that. When you go to the stadium, take a picture of that for me and text it to me. I didn't know they had.
I'll send it to you at some point. I took pictures of all the statues. I'm currently like trying to get the White Sox attention and trying like getting another statue added. I'm like, what's the process for petitioning a statue? Because they have a glaring omission, and I'm trying to go to bat for him. So
good. My mom, that's one of her favorite players because she got to see him play back in Cuba and everything. So I'd love to show her a statue of Minnie.
Yeah, I'll be happy to send it along, and I can send you other Go-Go Sox too, because they have a beautiful one of Aparicio and Nellie Fox turning a double play.
Of course.
That one's really cool. So, and Billy Pierce as well.
I love that stuff. Thanks.
So like the 52 set itself, right? It's, you know, like what's probably noted between the 51 and 52 is the facsimile signature, which I think is fantastic, as opposed to having the name on there. For me, it kind of harkens a bit back to like some of the either earlier designs where they didn't have the names on the front. You had to kind of look on the back, which I'm sure is kind of annoying from like some standpoint, right? If you're a collector and don't know who the players are. But I think it has a nice little touch, just kind of seeing like what their signatures were, which were copies of their signature from their contracts at that time. And some of them have some beautiful signatures on the cards. And the size were the same size as 51 on the backs. This is where obviously Topps got them. It was all the stats that they had on the back of the cards. And I think that kind of started to be pushing them to an extreme of having to do something different, which they did in 53. They had less room on the backs too, for some of the narrative that they did in the 51 season, because they had bigger advertisements on the back of the cards too. So, you know, that was maybe something deterred a bit for collectors, you know, if you were ones that liked reading the backs of the cards. But
they put in the back, it's big baseball, real big in the back there. So that kind of took up a little room.
I didn't want to miss, John sent a question there. He might have been trolling you slightly on there too, which I appreciate. He's like, said something along the line, ask Orlando if there's aren't any cards that are beautiful. I think earlier in your discussion, kind of talking how beautiful the set was. And
yeah, well,
kind of
I'll give you
messing
an
with you a little.
answer. I'll give you an answer. The 1958 Brooks Robinson. The 58 Brooks Robinson is ugly card.
So one of the big chaw in his mouth, right?
Yeah, it's terrible.
But it's distinct, right? Which kind of makes it pretty in a different way, right? So some of the set, this is where obviously they started between Topps and Bowman really started like going after players, right? It was kind of right around this time, and it's like trying to get exclusive contracts. And I think the set is kind of noted for like players that it's missing that Topps had in that sets, and obviously got a little bit worse over the couple of years until they went out of business after the 55 season. But the omissions, obviously, the ones that stand out above and beyond, there's no Jackie Robinson, in the 52 set, which probably also is another reason it makes it a little easier to complete. Hoyt Wilhelm had a rookie in Topps, and it doesn't in the set, and also Eddie Matthews does not have a rookie card featuring in the Bowman set for this one. But they do have some other players that Topps didn't have, like my guy Nellie Fox does not have a Topps card until 56. He was exclusive with Bowman. I think it's kind of a cool looking card coming off of that. Some other ones that they had, Ralph Kiner, didn't have a Topps card that year. Casey Stengel didn't have one as well. And then my father's favorite player, which I kind of mentioned earlier, the Stan Musial card in there. It was like his last Bowman card, as we kind of all know, and didn't have a regular issue card again until 58 Topps All-Star. So enough about that. Let's kind of show some cards that we've gotten there. So
I see in the
what
chat,
you got
Mike
there,
says,
Jake and RJ?
Mike says the only thing better than a 52 Bowman is a signed 52 Bowman. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
there was a beautiful one that sold on Probstein last week with Stan Musial signature in blue on it. It was beautiful.
Let's see.
Oh, here's some ones. So
Bob Kuzawa.
Nice.
We have a couple of them. This is one of my favorite ones.
Warren Spahn.
Yeah, I like this
I
one.
love it. With that sign on the back, that's beautiful.
Fence,
I love that card. I love that green background. I love that. Okay, I do love all the cards, I guess.
Yeah, I do have to agree with you, Orlando. I think the backgrounds of the cards are just a little bit more eye-catching than 52 Topps by and large. I mean, 52 Topps obviously had a lot of things going for it as well, but like some of the backgrounds, I'm like looking at like the Enos Slaughter. It's like really kind of hard to like make out the background on the card. It's not as clear as it is on the Bowman card, for sure.
Yeah, you're right. And the same thing here, like with Yogi Berra, you can't really take a good look at the back of that 52, just kind of shows his face.
Yeah.
But when you look at the mantle, you see him sitting there in the dugout with the stairs in the back there. You can see the railing in the back and stuff. And it's just, really, really nice. Yeah, I love that Yogi Berra. That's a beautiful one.
Yeah.
And you just showed the Campanella too, right? Did I just miss that? Did you have that?
Campanella's got the nice cloud in the background.
No, you can show it.
I think that is my favorite card in that set, which I don't have at this point. But I just think that is a beautiful card.
Yeah.
Independent of who is on the card. But the fact that it's in a Hall of Famer is even better.
Yeah, I love that card. And the maze is just beautiful with the clouds also in the background. I need to get that card one day.
I know someone who has one.
I already have them and all that.
Yeah.
I already have it.
Jake, what's your favorite 52 Topps card?
Here's Jake's 52.
All right.
Like Chrome cards?
Yeah.
Here, Jake.
Yeah.
There you go.
Beautiful. One of those days, I suppose I'll try and ante up and pick up that item. So as we're going through this, Orlando, you did talk a little bit about the 52 season. Some other like interesting things that happened during that year. 52 was actually the last year that the Braves played in Boston.
Yeah.
It was their final season, and we kind of denote that on some of the 53 cards that came out for Topps and also for Bowman, where you see some of it mentioning the Boston Braves, where they're wearing some of their Boston caps. And like
Yeah.
later in the year, especially I think in the Topps release, they've already switched over to putting the Milwaukee Braves,
The Milwaukee
changing their
Braves,
hats
you
in
know.
there. Yep.
I think there's one error, right? Is there one error in this set? Or maybe
I'm
there's
not sure.
I'm not
I think
sure
there
either.
was. Yeah.
There's only one I know of. Here's a nice Brave.
See, I love that
It's
artwork with the
consistent.
stadium in the background and everything. It's
Mhm.
real nice. So, RJ, tell us about the progress you're making with the set so far.
Let's see. I would say we are about 2/3, maybe
That's
maybe
excellent.
5%. Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of X's here, so
Yeah.
we're almost there. You know, the
And
high
you have
numbers.
most of the big cards, right? From if I remember correctly, minus
Yeah,
the
so
mantle, right? And
out of the high numbers, we only need about 12 more. So that's
Great. That's the
pretty
tough
good.
ones.
Plus the mantle.
Yeah. Do you have the Stengel?
What number is that? Let's see. He might be
that's a
he
high
might be in the
number.
binder here.
yeah, I didn't write down the number, just to note.
I'm pretty
he
sure
was
that's a high number.
One of the guys that's
I
coveted
was
in that
trying to
set.
put that set together. We went about halfway through it, but I know
Yeah.
Dan's vintage PC. Yeah, he's trying to
Yeah,
put it through.
he's
Since
about
2/3
2/3 of the way through
That's
too.
awesome.
So
Great,
if
great.
you guys have any duplicates, you should kind of
Yeah,
reach
right.
out to each
We
other.
gotta
So
start trade.
Yeah, for
Dan's
sure.
in New York City. I can go meet him. Let's see. Casey Stengel.
That's pretty good progress so far. How long have you been putting it together?
How many cards are in this set? We bought 150 cards off of one guy
I think
And
there's
that was about
270,
4 months ago. 252 cards total.
250, right? 252.
yeah, that's a great.
That's
great
pretty
progress
good
already.
progress.
Rossetti is
for-
number 252.
Yeah, that's great progress in just a few months.
Yeah, little by little, chip away.
There's another one that might be helping you out there too.
Oh, great! Look at that. That's the good thing about this community. You know, you help each other out.
Yeah.
I sent a
Yeah,
whole
I gotta
bunch of
get-
cards to John Wade Boggs fan. I sent him a whole bunch of comments he needed for his 78.
Yeah, I saw
set.
that episode. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, so
So other things that happened during that season, the Hall of Fame inductees were Harry Hyman and Paul Weiner, sorry, mispronounced his
yeah.
name, from the Pittsburgh Pirates. MVPs for that season, not Hall of Famers. One still alive,
neither
though.
one. Yeah.
Bobby Shantz for Philadelphia, and then Hank Sauer, who played for the Cubs for that season, are the two MVPs. The Rookie of the Years, one guy I had no idea who this was.
Really, no big names in any
Harry
of
Bird
those.
was the Rookie
Yeah.
of the Year
What's his
for
last
the
name?
A's. Harry Bird.
Bird,
Bird.
Don't know who he was. And Joe Black, who I do know,
Yeah.
who played for the
Yeah,
Dodgers. was
but
the
no,
other rookie
really,
here.
if you look at all the stats and all that, no big
Mhm.
names really stood out in any of those MVPs or
Yes, but
or even any of that. Even well, they didn't have Cy Young, but any of those categories really.
No, yeah, well, I mean, the leading hitter in the National League was someone pretty big, batted 336, and that was damn usual. But
Yeah,
Ferris Fain was the
yeah.
American League hitter, so that was one of, I think, the 2 seasons he batted over like 300. when
Yeah,
he
it was
played
one of
for the
those
A's.
kind of odd years,
Mhm.
And but it was again the Yankees were in the middle of their World Series run there. And,
Mhm.
I think that was really the big story then, and the Dodgers, because the Dodgers were big at that time, the Brooklyn Dodgers, with Campanella and Jackie and all that, and that was the big race, I think, in the World Series. If you take a look at the
Yeah.
World Series there, you'll see that the Yankees ended up winning 4-3, and I think the big thing for the Yankees was Mantle hit his first home run in the World
Oh.
Series. Then
Joe Black does not have a card
He-
in the Bowman set.
he's a high number in the
Yes.
top. Yeah,
Yeah, I looked up the standings for that season to kind of see who the top teams were, and you hit the nail on the head as far as it was the Dodgers and Giants fight to get out again to try and see who would be in the World Series. The Dodgers won by 4 games that year over the Giants, and New York topped Cleveland by 2 games. That was like that
Cleveland,
long
right, it was
string
in
where
Cleveland,
Cleveland was runners up, except for in '54 when Al Lopez obviously was managing the teams before he came over to the White Sox later on in the decade and took them to a World Series where they lost to the Dodgers. So definitely was some themes there of like who was winning, who wasn't.
Yeah, I tell you. I got a great story on Al Lopez. I was trying to get his autograph, and I was in Tampa, and I knew that he lived in Tampa. He lived in South Tampa, and I was a salesman at the time, and I knew a lot of the business owners in the area, and I talked a lot of, I always talked about baseball and stuff like that. And there was one barber shop in South Tampa, and as I'm talking to the guy and I'm telling him about baseball, he's telling me, "Oh, I cut hair for a lot of the retired baseball players." So he starts naming off some guys, and he says Al Lopez, and I'm Al Lopez. I've been trying to get his autograph on my celebration card, my press steel. And he says, yeah. He comes here at least once a month. So I gave, he had my card. I said, as soon as he comes in, if you can just call me and, and let me know, and if I can't make it, I'm going to leave the card here for you. So please have him sign it and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it was cool. So then the guy calls me and says, "Hey, Al is here. See if you can come down here and I'll introduce you and I'm going to have him sign your card and all that stuff." So I'm like, I want to haul butt out there, try to get out there because I was probably a few miles away. So I'm getting out there, and then the guy, I couldn't make it. And then finally, when I got there, he says, "Oh, you missed him. He left." I was going to have him inscribe it to you, but I figured I'll just have him sign his name. I said, "Thank God," because I didn't want him to put to Orlando, So, even though it would have been nice, but for my set, I didn't want it that way. So I do have an autograph from Al Lopez that came from Al Lopez's barber.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
Is Al Lopez in the Bowman set at all as a manager card? It's not one I've kind of gone after or not.
I don't think he is.
He's not in Topps. Sure. Yeah.
But he has a little museum here in South Tampa. He's just huge here. And Hugo, Signs of the Pastimes, went to visit the museum, the Al Lopez House Museum. And a great video if you haven't seen it. I think it's one of his first videos.
I'll have to look that up.
It was great.
Jason's asking if I'm going to Strongville. I'm not. Are you guys going? You heading out there?
Going, yes. I'll be there.
We were thinking about it.
Sounds like it'd be a good time. It's almost like the National.
It's in April.
Everybody showing up. So
yeah, we have a pretty big card show here in April that we like to go to. It's about 25 to 30 autograph signers come and a bunch of tables. It's a big convention center in Edison. So I don't know if we're going to do that again. Yeah, might do that.
Yeah, it's getting tough getting autographs of some of these Hall of Famers now. They're charging so much money. I heard that not Tom Sear. Who is it that wants? God, I can't remember. There's one. Oh, it's Sandy Koufax. Sandy Koufax wants over $1,000.
Oh, I did read
someone
that. Yeah.
shared that with me today, actually, in one of the chats I'm in.
I think a photograph. If it's a card, I think it's $1,200.
If it's his rookie card, it's over $3,000.
I mean, come on.
Yep, it's $3,750 to get his 1955 Topps card signed.
I heard Mike Schmidt is the same way now too. Yeah. Very high.
And it's limited amount, no inscriptions. You can't add on their Hall of Fame.
It's getting out of control.
God forbid.
Getting out of control.
Yeah. I had to pay a little bit more for Billy Williams to sign his rookie card, but it was only $30 more than he would sign for other cards.
That's fine. I mean, come on, they're
$3,000, but
they're giving you 5 seconds of their time, just to sign the name. And most of them, they won't even give you much time to talk to them, Maybe you'll get a picture and that's it. But God, you could just buy that card so much cheaper than.
Oh yeah, probably already signed at this point.
His autograph already signed. Yeah.
So I got a few trivia kind of things. They're from 1952 in general because I had our time finding a lot of things happening during the season. So there were 3 no-hitters thrown during the season. One was done by the same pitcher twice. The other one was by Carl Erskine. Can you name the pitcher that threw 2 no-hitters during the 1952 season? Played for Detroit. Anyone in the chat want to give it a shot?
Detroit.
Detroit.
back in 1952.
There it is. Got the answer already. Correct, Virgil. Trucks was able
Oh
to do that.
man, how
Mhm.
did I
Not a name that's on the top
that?
of my mind whatsoever.
Oh come on,
That's
I
pretty
should have
incredible
known
doing
that.
twice.
I needed to know that. You know why? I met Virgil Trucks and I sat down and I talked to him for a long time. And I can't believe. Hold on one second. You guys chat a little bit.
Sure, absolutely.
We'll check the book.
No, I got it.
Another thing I thought was kind of interesting is I looked up the average attendance numbers for 1952. Because we kind of think about this as like the golden age, right? So we kind of like think that baseball was super king and people were dying to get into stadiums. I think that's when you started seeing some of the people moving out to the suburbs. Was probably like in the 50s, and we're watching games on TV and the radio. Because you know what the average attendance was for the highest drawing team per game? Any idea? It was the Yankees. I'll give that away. Do you have any idea?
Say the question one more time.
Do you know like the average attendance for the Yankees for 1952? They were the highest. Any idea?
Uh,
Are you looking it up now?
Is it over 10,000?
10,000.
I'm gonna go 12,000.
Oh, that's actually lower than I thought you might say. It was 21,000. They were the highest drawing team during that season, which is kind of funny when you think about it now. If like a team just averaging 21,000 fans, and people are like, "That's
What'd you
terrible,"
find?
right? So
I'm back with Virgil Trucks.
I thought you might be going after him. Yeah, on its sign
Nice.
too.
Virgil Trucks signed on that.
That makes up for not remembering that. So
Isn't that a beautiful autograph? He signed it right along his leg there. Now, do you know his nickname?
wow. No.
I don't.
Virgil Fire Trucks. Fire.
I did know that. I just got his
Oh,
autograph
wow.
too.
Virgil
Kinda makes
I
Fire
got it
Trucks.
on an exhibit. We just get that today.
So finishing up the topic on the attendance, the lowest drawing team, and it's no surprise this team was averaging like only 3,600 fans a game, was the Braves, because the team was leaving. So I think the fans were like, okay, we're done with them. Yeah. That's crazy. Can you imagine a team drawing an average of 3,000 fans right now?
Virgil Fire Trucks, he was called Fire Trucks because he would put out the fire. He was one of the relievers they would bring him in to relieve. He was actually a strikeout leader a few times. It says in 1947, and even won 19 games. He was a great pitcher. People don't know about it. That's why I love the history of the game, because you learn about players like this. And I should have
One of the
known
Tigers
that
teams that like the team that won the World Series like in 45. Does he go that far back? Or?
he goes back to 1949. He was 19-11, 2.8 ERA, second in the league, was a strikeout king, and he went back to 1941.
Yeah, he was on that team then. Yeah.
1941.
Beat the Chicago Cubs. And it started the curse of the Billy Goat over here.
Oh, really?
Obviously, that broke that. It was that series. Yeah, it was that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So another thing I kind of found that was interesting that happened during that season on June 22nd, Sin Gorman won a 100-pound bear cub for being the first player to hit a homer on the State of Maine Day. I think this was a game that happened, I believe, up in, I think, Boston, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been the Braves field. But I didn't know what the heck that was. So I tried to look up what's the State of Maine Day, June 22nd, and I couldn't find it. And they actually like gave him a 100-pound bear cub.
Who would want a bear cub?
Which you talk about times changing. Like I could see animal rights activists going, "What the hell? Why are you giving a wild animal away to anybody?"
Oh man, that's crazy.
That was kind of interesting when I found that one. So.
How times have changed,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And as you mentioned, the 52 series, obviously the Yankees won. Does anyone have a copy of the MVP for that World Series? Anyone have his card readily available?
No, I don't.
Who is it? Rizzuto?
No.
Barrett?
Former Cardinal great and giant. Came over the Yankees late in his career. The big cat, Johnny Mize.
Do I have Johnny?
Have his Bowman card available? I have his Topps card
No.
here, but we're not
I have
talking
his
about Topps today.
I have
but-
his Leaf card. I have it down the stairs.
Let's see what number that is.
Yeah.
Number.
Yeah, Johnny Mize was such a big hitter back then. A big home run hitter, Johnny Mize. He was strong.
I don't have
powerful
Johnny
guy.
Mize.
You don't have it? Yeah.
No.
Dan's
Yeah, I
got
just
it
have
in
his
the
Topps
6.
card. Yeah.
Dan said he got Mize in the 6. That's nice.
Nice.
Should have called Dan in to help us.
No, no kidding.
Set,
Yeah, I
really.
should send him the link here since he's got all the
Yeah.
Send
cards
him the
lately,
link.
right?
Come on, Dan. Join us.
And then obviously he only had one more season thereafter, and he's part of the black and white Bowman set. The cards that are a little more hard to find, but not as coveted, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
he has a
the
beautiful
black and
53
white.
Topps card, right?
Yeah.
So, no, and he's also in the 48 Bowman set too. His
Yeah,
rookies in there.
48.
So, well, I guess this is rookie. He had some cards earlier than that, but I don't think sanctioned as the rookie, if you will, by the gods that be who determined those things back then.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of easy telling the rookies back in the day because you knew, and now they uncover other stuff. Well, maybe this is the rookie, and maybe the exhibit is a rookie. Like for Lou Gehrig now,
Yeah.
saying the exhibit is a rookie.
The cards like in the late 30s and 40s are interesting, some of the card sets, because you have so many players that are missing from some of those sets. And they're just
Yes.
missing, period. And I don't know the stories why. Like they just kind of disappear. He's one of them. He played in the late 30s. He could have been in any of those great sets that we're talking about, but he was not any of them. White Sox great Luke Appling was not in a product after 38 for a few years until 49 again. So like I have no idea why that was, but
yeah, it happens sometimes. Some players, some we know and some we don't. We know about Musial and all that stuff, but we don't know some of the other, smaller type guys.
Yeah, it just seems like they're kind of missing the opportunities to hit a different demographic and area by
remember
having
back
some players in there.
I mean, other than the bigger sets like the 33 Gaudies and stuff like that, most of the sets back in the days were a lot smaller too. So even the Leaf set, there's not that many cards there. It's just 100 and some cards really, because it's skip numbered and stuff like that. And
I was just looking up that this weekend. I guess there's only known 98 cards of that set.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of those sets, they're bound to leave some people out. So sometimes it's just, why did they leave Johnny Mize? Who knows? But for some reason, they probably replaced him with somebody else.
Like why was he not in it for 3 consecutive years?
Yeah.
I don't know, he just didn't have a contract with them.
Yeah,
but
that happens.
For a Cardinals fan, which I'm also, kind of sucks you can't get a Johnny Mize Cardinal card so easily from that era. So.
So Jake, what's going on?
Jake, what's going on?
Hey,
What's going on?
Tell us about Jake. You like
Very
putting
cool.
together sets. You like watching your dad, and you like going out with him to the card shows. And
We went yesterday.
well,
We saw Sammy Thunder at the Garfield Card Show. We gave Sammy a nice T-shirt and one of our cards, right?
yeah, but me and my dad are two different people. He likes really old. I like wax.
You like wax?
Yeah, I like wax.
You know what? When I was young, I love wax. That's how
He
I
loves
started.
opening the wax.
I opened wax when I was a kid. That's all I did was open wax.
We just bought a whole box of this so he can open.
Oh, that's fun.
Good.
We got an interesting question in the chat from Josh.
All right.
This is Hall of Fame related as far as our opinions. What would be the new number for pitchers to get in the Hall of Fame if like 300 was like kind of the plateau before players needed, right? Is it 200, 250?
Tractor?
Yeah. I think at probably 200 you'll get serious consideration in my opinion going forward.
Well, I'll tell you what, Josh. I did a whole, I think it was almost an hour talk with Ray from Philly and a couple other guys, and we talked really just about this topic, about the pitchers and who's going to be going to the Hall of Fame and what are going to be the new standards. And I think what we talked a long time. You could hear all of my thoughts, but just to sum things up, I think that 250 is going to be almost impossible for any pitcher to have 250 wins from now on. I mean, you got a couple guys that may get there. You got Greinke also, they may get there. I think he's got 225. But I think it definitely has to be lowered to possibly. I don't want to give a specific number because what I think is you got to look at the body of work, but I think you have to have a few things out of the categories we picked there. You can go back and look at the video. I think the most important are going to be the how many wins, and I think you got to have 200 wins and more. The strikeouts. I think strikeouts, if you look at it nowadays, since there's a lot of people, the guys are striking out. I mean, the big hitters are striking out. So pitchers are getting more strikeouts now than they were in the past.
Yep.
So I think the strikeouts, 3,000 strikeouts, a lot of pitchers are getting 3,000 strikeouts. I think that's got to be raised to 3,500. Make that 3,500 strikeouts, 200 wins. And then I think you got to look at the WAR, of course, because that kind of covers everything, you know, of their stats. And when you look at the actual voters now, they're all into this stats and the WAR and that. There's a new stat that's called JAWS. And what that stat is, they'll take the top 7 years, their prime 7 years of those pitchers, of that pitcher, and then make a stat. And that stat, like a WAR, is called JAWS. And I think you have to look at something like that in the future, because I can't see many pitchers being like a Nolan Ryan or a Warren Spahn and pitching, you know, 20 plus years anymore, you know. Most of them are not going to do that, or they're not going to pitch any more than, you know, 5-6 innings a game before they're taken out.
Yeah,
So,
unless they start to change pitching again, because they throw so hard now. Yeah.
Look, but there's already teams now that are using bullpens to pitch a whole game, you know. Before, when it was 1 to 2, possibly 3 pitchers in a game, now you're looking at 4 to 5, 6 pitchers in one game. So I think you got to look at that. And it, like, if you look at let's say the JAWS statistic, the 7 best years, it kind of puts you into that category of looking at a player like a Sandy Koufax, who didn't have a long career, but when he had his career, he was unstoppable. So I think that the committees are going to be, the voting guys are going to start looking at that a little more than longevity too. So I think, yeah, the wins, 200 wins plus 3,500 strikeouts. You got to have a good WAR, but they're going to look at what are your best years and were you the best pitchers in those times. And the other thing they'll look at, I think, in my opinion, and there was some disagreement in our conversation, but I think you also got to look at someone who's won the awards. You know, if you won 2, 3 Cy Young awards, you know, if you're the top winning pitcher for, you know, so many years, I think also people recognize that and look at that also. That may also influence whether you're going to go into the Hall of Fame or not. So that's my kind of long, short version of my
Definitely put a lot of thought into it, I could hear. And I was talking with my friends about this not too long ago. I was like, you know, like kind of talking about even baseball when I was younger, into my early adulthood. They advertised, right, the key matchups, right? That was like a draw. Like tonight we got Randy Johnson versus Pedro Martinez, and you cared because you like that was like going to be really cool. They were going to try and like pitch as long as they could into the game, and now it's like, oh, okay, like they're going to be about 5-6 innings. The game might get decided after they're pulled out now anyway. It just doesn't have the same appeal to me. And like, there's so few pitchers that kind of even rise to the top that are considered stars anymore because of it. And it's just very weird. It's like they were the stars for a little while. You think about the 1960s. It was the pitchers. It wasn't so much the hitters. The pitchers were the stars. It's just
That's right.
Pendulum is completely swung.
Yeah, completely swung. I mean, if you had a good pitcher, you were going to win that game. If Bob Gibson's pitching or Sandy Koufax pitching, you knew you were going to win, and you know that they were not going to be taken out of that game, no matter what. They didn't want to be taken out.
Right.
You know, and today, I mean, there's very few pitchers. I know for my team, the Marlins, we have Sandy Alcantara. He's one that hates to be taken out because we have a terrible bullpen and he'll lose the game. So he fights with the manager. Let me in. Let me stay in. And I think he may have had the most complete games this year, if I'm not mistaken. But that's old time pitchers. You don't have that anymore. And, you know, and the other thing that I think is, you know, and I think in general, this generation, I think, is being babied as far as the kids, but I think the pitchers, they're not allowed to throw 75 pitches. You're not allowed to do this, and I think that hurts them in the long run, because if you think about some of the pitches, in Japan, they make them throw on your off day. You're throwing 100 pitches in your off days, and you're pitching because they feel that's the way to get a stronger arm. And if you listen to the older pitchers back in the day, and I watch a lot of the Negro Leagues and stuff, like Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige threw every single day. They'd go from one town to the other. And he said that's how he developed his arm strength. That's why he was able to pitch, almost 2 games in a row. And I think that's one of the things right now that, they're thinking they're protecting the arm, but I think they're more hurting the arms. I think they need to allow these pitchers to throw pitches, and just, go out there and do what you got to do. And just, yeah, your arm may be sore. There were stories in the old days of one pitcher back in the early 1900s. I can't remember his name right now. He literally pitched 4 games in a row. He said that in his book, he wrote that on that last day, he couldn't lift up his arm to comb his hair. He says that's how bad his arm felt. But after he recovered, he said that, man, he was stronger than ever, and he felt a lot better. But, those are the things that nowadays, they're not going to allow pitchers to go out there and throw 100 pitches in a game anymore.
They make too much money, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's a mistake. I think they got to go back and look at some of the old things. You got to strengthen your arm. I mean, it's like running. When I was in high school, I ran a marathon. I never thought I would be able to do that. But I set my goal to do that, and I went ahead and I did that. And how do you do that? Is you got to run up to it. You got to run, and sometimes your legs are sore, but you just got to keep going. You got to keep moving. You got to keep going no matter what. And in time you build that stamina. And I think that's the kind of stuff you got to look at.
You get used to the distance.
Yep. Right? Yeah. And one of my best buddies that I stayed with him at the National. I'm going to be with him at the next National. Ryan from Breakout Cards.
Yeah, Ryan.
He runs
ultras, right?
Ironman stuff. I mean, he's doing the heavy duty stuff. I mean, and talk about dedication. I mean, he got up, I don't know, maybe 5 a.m. at the National, and started doing his run. He comes back, and I'm just getting up, and he's already done I don't know how many miles. But that's dedication. But I think you got to do that, and I still do. I mean, every other day, I don't run anymore what I used to, but I walk about 5 miles every other day just to stay in shape. And when you look at pitchers and things like that, they don't allow them to throw. Okay, you pitch today. Tomorrow you can't even throw the ball. Sometimes you can't even pitch. What's going on? That's my opinion. If I were a coach, which I'm not, and maybe that's why I'm not.
I think you've definitely echoed some comments that I think a lot of us have voiced at one point or another in conversations about this. Hey, so wanted to ask you, what's your favorite 52 Bowman card that you have in your possession? You can share that with us. So
favorite.
You might have already shown it, and that's okay.
Me, I've got to go with my mantle. I've shown it before because I'm a huge mantle fan, and I got to go with that. And I would say probably that maze is probably my second favorite in that set. Yeah. That maze is beautiful. I
think we're a bunch of homers here because I think we're showing maybe the 3 biggest players in the set right now.
Really, honestly, I think those are the 3 prettiest cards on this in the whole set. I mean, there's a lot of nice cards. Let's see what RJ's got.
RJ likes Ralph Kiner. Is that who that is?
Kiner.
Bobby Thompson, number 2 in the set.
Thompson.
Oh, Bobby Thompson. Yeah. Jason says that Billy Pierce.
Yeah. That is a good-looking card, Billy Pierce. It looks better than his 51.
Yeah, we show that.
Can you show the board paper now too?
Josh is making some.
No, Dre, I've never done an Ironman. I'm not that interested in swimming and biking, in competitions. I like to do those just for fun.
Josh gave a good comment there on the way that they use the bullpens now.
Let me pull it up. Yeah.
You know. Yeah, I don't know if Billy Wagner will ever be in the Hall of Fame, but let me tell you, he deserves it. The guy was dominating.
Yeah, we'll see how he does in the Hall
He'll
of
get
Fame
some
voting
votes,
this year, right?
I don't know. It's gonna be real tough for relievers. I mean,
Yeah, I think the Veterans Committee might end up
yeah.
weighing in on some of those types of players.
I think he was like top 4
Yeah.
that I just saw. I think
Yeah.
Mauer
Yeah.
had like
Is he?
84%. He was number
Yeah.
2.
Mm-hmm.
They're just the relievers in that era, just all graded against maybe the two best. They're graded against Trevor Hoffman and Mariano Rivera. It's like you can't use them as examples. They're like maybe the best that ever did it.
Well, one of the issues again, and I think it's just in general with pitchers, since they're not everyday players. A lot of times, for me, if I were to vote, I would rather vote for a hitter who's an everyday player who's going to be there contributing every single day to your team versus a pitcher that's only going to pitch every 4 or 5 days, or even a reliever that may pitch only every few days, may only pitch a couple of innings here or there. So, I mean, you have to really give the hitters I think, an advantage going into the Hall as an everyday player versus a pitcher. If you give me a vote and you had a, Hall of Fame pitcher, a possible Hall of Fame pitcher, possible Hall of Fame hitter, I'm going to go for the hitter every time.
Yeah, Monty Irvin's a good looking card too.
Oh, Monty Irvin's a great looking card. And super underrated player Monty Irvin was. All
right, I got some silly questions that are not somewhat baseball related, but are 1952 related. Who was the president of the United States in 1952? It should be one we just know, right? But what do you think?
Was it Eisenhower?
No, you weren't far off, though. He did win the presidential election in 1952, but he didn't become president until 53.
Shoot. Man, I knew that when I was in high school. I knew all the presidents. In high school, when I went to high school, they made me memorize all. Truman. Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Nice. Great job. Thanks, Dan.
What was the best picture of 1952?
The best picture of 1952.
Best picture.
The president then?
No, best picture.
No, the best movie. He's talking about.
The best movie.
The best movie.
He won the Academy Award for Best Picture. They also won for Best Director.
Wow. That's a tough one. I mean, Dan's
not on the waterfront.
There,
no.
Was it?
No, it was not on the waterfront.
Not on the waterfront. I just don't know. I would guess Casablanca, but that was way before then.
Casablanca was 40.
Way before, yeah.
40,
we went over the MVP already, right?
42, I think. 41, I believe is when Casablanca was.
I don't know.
Not Gone with the Wind, Jason. That was much earlier, too.
Before that, too.
It was the greatest show on earth.
Wow, look at that. The greatest
Cecil
show
B. DeMille was the director of that movie.
Would have never.
I think I've only seen parts of it in like Turner Classic Movie when I kind of went through. Wasn't Marty on that one. Sorry, Dre.
Good guess, Dre.
Hey, but here's one that kind of ties a little bit back to baseball. Who was the best actor in 1952? And I'll give you the name of the film if you need a little help.
And it ties to baseball?
The actor does.
The actor, okay.
He played a former baseball player in a movie not this movie, but a previous movie that we all know. Especially somebody with a NY hat on right now. Oh, here we go. Yep.
Gary Cooper.
Gary Cooper.
Oh,
yep. He won for High Noon. So like one of his more famous roles. So for that one, but
John Wayne.
Great guess, though. Great guess.
So those are the kind of the crazy things I pulled out. Anyone know who the MLB commissioner was at that point? That one I had to look up to. I didn't know that one.
Ford Frick?
It was Ford Frick.
Okay.
There we go. Ford Frick. Yep. Those are the end of my
Something.
questions. Those are the end of the questions I had on
Great
there.
questions.
So.
I love that kind of stuff because you go back
Vintage
in
Kid
time.
had a question up
I
there.
could make
Anyone
another one
know?
here, but
Yeah, my favorite movie, The Pride of the Yankees. I saw that a
was it your
couple
favorite
weeks
movie?
ago.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies. My favorite sports movie is always going to be Brian's Song.
Oh, that's a
With
tearjerker.
yeah,
Yeah.
and because he's a local guy. I went to Brian Piccolo Park here. Brian Piccolo is from here, from local school here. Grew up here, played high school here, and they have a park, Brian Piccolo Park, and I went there. It's like a little mini museum there, and they have pictures of him with Gale Sayers and stuff like that. His uniform from the when he played. And anyway, that's my favorite
That's pretty cool.
sports movie.
Bird was
But
rookie.
as far as the Yankee movie, it's The Pride of the Yankees.
Yeah, I'd have to go with that
Because it
too.
actually has
Yeah.
the babe in there and everything, and it's just great.
It does.
To see.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I gotta have to go with The Natural. That's the
Oh
one
yeah,
I think is my favorite.
MVPs were Yogi Berra and Campanella. I think you put there.
Not in 52.
No, I don't think not for 52 though. No,
Yeah,
you're
it
right.
was
not
Bobby
52.
Shantz and Hank Sauer.
They were unknown. Yeah, it was people we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for the who was the MVP of the World Series?
Johnny Mize.
Johnny Mize. That's right.
Johnny Mize, the big cat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there actually was my last sort of question. So Larry Doby won the home run title in the American League. There was a tie in the National League. One was Ralph Kiner. Can you name the guy who tied him? We've already mentioned his name tonight.
Oh,
I was gonna say no. I don't think it is.
It's my last question of the night. Anyone got it?
what is his name?
No.
St. Carl's. St. Carl's, this guy.
You're saying Mize.
Not Johnny Mize. Johnny Mize is the
it
American
wasn't
League fan.
Mize. Yeah.
Wait, what was the question, Dad?
Not the clue. Not him either.
It wasn't Duke Snyder. He didn't hit that many home runs. Who was? God.
Going once. Going twice.
Was it Yogi?
He was the MVP for that season. Hank Sauer
Oh,
tied for the league lead in
I
home
would
run with
not.
Ralph Kiner.
Oh, and I had Hank Sauer.
I think that was the
somewhere around here,
second to
too.
last season that Ralph Kiner actually tied for the home run lead too. I think he only did it one other year where he led the league in home runs. So I think it ended after 53, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I think that's when his streak ended. But
yeah,
I talk about a player that is kind of underappreciated for what he did in the game.
he definitely was underappreciated for sure. Yeah, well, I mean, there was just so many players back in the day because you think about the big stars, but you don't think about the other guys, you know. And now, since they have the playoffs, you know, you get to see a lot more teams. Back in the day, it was just American League and National League Championship, and that's it. So you didn't really get to see a lot of the other teams as much, and a lot of the other players.
Yeah, I wish Kiner did have a 52 tops card.
Yeah.
His only tops card is 53, right? Or does he have a 51 as well? Someone will add that in there, so I'm sure. Right. So closing thoughts.
Well, let me ask RJ a question. RJ, which one are you going after now? I mean, you're 2/3 done with the set. Are there any big names that you're still missing?
Yeah, Mantle's next.
Okay, the big one.
They got a question for us. What was Sherry Robertson known for? I don't know.
Sherry Robertson.
That's a good one. So,
oh, God. I'm thinking. No, I don't know. Sherry Robertson. Hey, Dave.
all right, feel free to share the answer, Vintage Kid, whenever you're ready.
Looks like it's a high number too.
They're waiting to do that.
I
My
have
last
no
question
idea.
here it is.
First
player to actually kill a fan during. Ooh.
Wow. I didn't know that.
That's definitely something you don't want to be known for.
Yeah.
Wow. Was
I
it
heard
a
about
foul ball or a bat into the stands?
Must
Do
have
either
been.
of you know?
I think it was a foul ball. I think
Foul ball.
That it was a foul ball.
That's
I
horrible.
think I read that. I just had no idea who that could have been.
Mhm.
but I'm pretty sure he'll put that up here soon. Hey, Scott.
And we
to have
just
you on.
added nets around the fields the last couple of years. And the
Yeah.
first death was in 1952.
Oh, there it is. Overthrow
Wow.
of a first baseman. So it was with the ball.
Oh, wow.
Boy, that's pretty crazy. I mean,
That's
I heard
really
about
awful.
I heard about pitcher hitting one guy with the
Yep.
the pitch and killing
Carl
him there,
Mays,
but
yeah.
I didn't
Mhm.
know about that. That is crazy, Jason. Wow.
So my question for you guys, and I can answer first, is my last question here to kind of wrap it up the talk. Why would somebody want to collect a 1952 Bowman set? What would be your number one reason why? Mine would be the size of it is smaller than tops and it's more obtainable than tops for 1952 because the high numbers are not crazy. That would be my number one reason.
Yeah, it was much smaller than the 51 set.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was smaller. The 51, I think, was 300 and something cards. This one's 252, and it's a lot smaller than the top set, which 411 cards. And but yeah, I agree for sure that the best reason is that it is very inexpensive. If you compare it to the other years, I mean, if you compare the second year 52 Bowman mantle to the 52 Topps mantle, or even to the 51 Bowman rookie mantle, the 52 Bowman mantle is probably, in my opinion, the most undervalued mantle of them all. And it's
You
a
can get a nice
beautiful
one
mantle.
for around 1,500, 2,000.
I mean, come on, and it's almost a rookie. It's a 52 mantle. It's a beautiful card. I think
that's
one
not
of
a
the
crazy
drawbacks,
number.
yeah, some people don't like it because it is smaller, but I think that kind of is a good thing. It looks so vintage. You know what I mean? It has that feel of vintage. It looks vintage. The artwork is vintage. The signs in the background are the old style signs and the old style stands, and it's just that vintage look of those cards. To me,
I love the contrast between the two sets that year too.
Just the background of those cards and the artwork of the cards.
In the early win.
I just think they're beautiful cards. They're definitely a lot easier to obtain than any of the other years, and you just can't go wrong with just a beautiful facsimile autograph too. I mean, I love that. We don't talk about that much, but the facsimile autograph to me is so much nicer than a lot of the other cards that don't have anything or may have
the box letters.
Yeah, or even the 55 Bowman, it just says mantle, has a little box that says mantle. And some of them don't even have a name on the front,
It's kind of interesting. You mentioned the signature. Is the top set also has the signature for that year too? That's kind of an interesting feature. I didn't think about that until just now. I'm like, oh, they both had it going on.
Of course, the tops are beautiful because it has it in a little box, almost like they do now in the modern cards, a little signature box for the athlete to sign. I mean,
I was the first year to do that, right? 52.
Yeah, that's how far ahead they were.
I think so.
Back in,
I'm trying to think other sets. I mean, other sets I think had facsimile signatures back like in the 30s. I don't know if they were facsimiles. It might have just been they used cursive for the card, but yeah.
The 34 Gaudi has Lou Gehrig's says, and it kind of has a facsimile of Lou Gehrig's signature there, and in the back too. And
the wide pens are in cursive, but I think it's just cursive script. It's not a signature. Yeah.
I think the 52 Topps just combined everything in one. But the Bowman it's much more simple design, and I really like that about that card. It's a simple set. It's got the facsimile autograph. It's got the nice artwork. I wish it would have more stats on the back. I think the back is kind of weak, but the fronts are beautiful. What are your thoughts, RJ? You're putting together the whole set.
Yeah, I mean, I like the 48 Bowman. That's our favorite set. So the undersized card was appealing to me. And like I said, completionist. So this is an affordable set in my mind. So, I think it's one of the better ones to go after if you want to complete a set. Definitely. What do you think?
Between Jake, RJ, and I, we're working on 3 of the Bowman sets right now, right? Yeah. 48. You got 52. I'm doing 53. So just need to add the other ones in. So
I love this. The 48 is a beautiful set too.
That's my favorite card in the set too of the Hall of Famers is the Feller.
Yeah, I love the Feller. It's just back again. I love the cards that take you back to history, and they just look vintage
Mhm.
to me. I mean, it's a vintage card, and I want it to look
Mhm.
vintage. And that
Yeah,
black and
and
white
unlike
photo
some
is
of the
just,
earlier black and white cards too, is you can really see the backgrounds in those.
yes,
So I think about even like the 1940 play balls; they're very blurry in there. But the black and white on the 48 Bowmans, you can clearly see like whatever stadium they were in or wherever they
Right.
took the picture, which I think is really kind of cool. But
you know, some
that's a
people
story
don't
for
like
another show.
another show. And some people don't like some of the cards, like the Spawn and stuff, but
Yeah.
still,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Look at that
Nice.
autograph. Nice.
So we
Very
got
nice.
29 of the 48 so far.
Wow.
Oh, it's fantastic.
See,
Yeah, I'm
that's
not going
another,
after the autographs, but I'm getting closer to
me,
the set. A
another
big one
not
coming
an
soon.
easy set to complete, but another, fairly attainable set with such few cards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, most of the Hall of Famers aren't bad. And you can
No,
find
not at
plenty
all.
of the ones that are expensive too, but there's plenty of options, I think, for
Yeah.
48. So with the
Reindeer.
Vera and the usual.
Yeah.
My man, fella.
Definitely, man. Feller is so underrated. People don't realize how good of a pitcher he really
Best
was.
pitcher of the 40s. Yeah.
And and he started pitching when he was 15 years old. I mean, the guy was incredible. He was
He's missing from my Diamond Star set. That's one player that I would have liked to seen featured on there. But yeah. Well, with that, I want to thank everybody that showed up in the chat tonight. This was
Yes.
a great audience, man. Just like all the questions we got and just the comments. Want to thank everybody there. Definitely want to thank Orlando for agreeing to join us tonight. It was fantastic hearing you storytell and
Thank you,
share your
Orlando.
thoughts
Pleasure.
about baseball and the hobby. And
this
until
was
we
for
see you guys
Josh.
again.
That's for you, Josh.
Ah,
Minoso Auto, right on the back.
yep. That's
Beautiful.
awesome. My Minoso Auto is when he was with the Cardinals, so it's kind of funny. Like the one team, like nobody ever remembers that he's with.
Yeah.
It could have been any other team, but yeah,
For
not
a cup
that
of
one.
coffee over there.
He did. Yeah, it's right before he came back for the White Sox and retired. So, all right. Well, good night.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Orlando. Thank you, Mitchell. See you soon.